said the Thursday edition. We have a special guest today, Lisa Rothman, who I met through Barry Friedman, right?
Absolutely. Retired juggler, showbiz blueprint genius, helping all entertainers find their niche and entertain people, connect with people.
And
Yeah.
I actually met up with Barry last week. We were down in Morro Bay where he lives now. We went and hung out with him, had some coffee, and what a great guy.
Totally. And that's different because you're usually doing Peloton with him at 6 a.m., right? So you actually got to see him in the flesh.
First time we've ever met. We've known each other for probably 7 years. First time we actually were in person together.
Right. Isn't this the virtual world, the in-person world? It is so amazing how much authentic connection you can have with people who you've never even physically been in space with before. It's a miracle.
It's awesome.
Really. Totally.
So when I was on with Barry and we were chatting and you were on there and you were telling your stories about, working from home and having a desk in the hallway. It's like years ago, I worked for a company as an online marketing manager, and in their offices, it was like an old law firm. So there was all these offices with, doors, and outside there was the secretary desk, and they were so full. I had to sit in one of those hallway desks. And it was right by the kitchen and the bathroom. So every time anyone in that floor would go to the bathroom or to the kitchen, they'd walk by my desk. I'd look up. I'm distracted. And then they'd start chit-chatting with me. And then I had the ultimate micromanager boss who would come out and say, "Stop talking to Ted because he's trying to get some work done." So you showed me your video and it was like, I lived that.
I think it's really relatable. So I do this interactive online comedy show called the Virtual Happy Hour. And for those of you who don't know, so the premise of it, what happened was at the beginning of the pandemic, all of a sudden my husband needed to work from home. I'm sure many of you can relate to this situation. And we have a small house. And so what ended up happening was his desk ended up in our hallway, right in front of the bathroom door, Ted, like you are describing. And there was, with the pandemic, there was so much that has been disruptive and challenging and hard. But because I'm a comedian, I'm all about, let's cope through humor. So I created this whole comedy show about what it is like with my husband's desk in our hallway right in front of the bathroom door. And I'm so glad it resonated with you. It's resonated with a lot of people. I know some people have what is called a cloffice. Have you heard of that?
Oh, no. What's that?
That is the closet office.
Oh.
Okay. I did the show for a woman. Her desk is not in the hallway, but it is right next to the front door of her house. So the pets and everything. But I have not met anybody who's in and of course there's the basement office, but I haven't met anybody who's in my situation, which is the hall office, or actually it's my husband's situation. So I get to be in the back office. I've got it easy compared to my husband. So what we have for people, shall we share the video now?
Sure, let's give it a shot.
Okay, so this is a typical day.
I wake up in the morning and head to the bathroom. Kevin has to roll his wheelie chair in for me to get by. Roll. Next, I head to the kitchen to make breakfast. Roll. We're out of oatmeal, so I head to the basement to get some. Back to the kitchen with the oatmeal. Can't read the directions on the package. Head to the bedroom for my reading glasses. Not here. Okay, they must be in the bathroom. Not here either. Okay, they are definitely in the back office. Found them! Back to the kitchen! Now I can read the instructions, but I have to pee. Again. Should I hold it? I don't want to hold it. All I am trying to do is make breakfast. I've got nothing to feel guilty about. Lisa, I hate having you walk behind me. Kevin, where do you expect me to walk instead? Under you?
That's funny because I'm sitting here looking at my wife's laundry in the corner of my office on a drying rack.
Laundry is another big deal because you can imagine how challenging it is to move a laundry hamper behind Kevin's desk, I broke the printer because we had this collision and it was a traffic jam. We had that situation. And so then I've also been doing this show in my backyard. So I adapted the online show into an in-person show. And so I had people come to my backyard and they got to do a tour of my house afterwards so they could actually fact check how real this was. I had a woman send me an email so she was waiting to use the bathroom and somebody was in there. And as she was waiting, she realized she was actually standing in front of Kevin's desk, which she capitalized with a capital D, and that she was there with his chair, and she did a capital C. And she started to imagine what it was like with the laundry hamper and how very challenging it would be with everybody in the hallway. And she described the experience as being like, it was like seeing the Washington Monument for the first time, or she said it was like seeing Hollywood stars in person. So this has been so much fun, to bring people into my world. And I think that people need to be having fun and laughing at themselves. And it has been such a joy by sharing the challenges that I've been facing that people can relate to, then getting to hear what's going on for them. It's really, I think it really helps. I think it helps people with a sense of collaboration and productivity, but also just having a chance to be human and relax together about, with everything that we've all been going through lately,
Yeah, no, it's just been quite a transition, just seeing all the really bad camera setups in people's houses at the beginning of the pandemic and the kids running around in the background and the dogs barking.
Yeah, I mean, the pets. I mean, we've gotten to meet everybody's pets. It's
Not mine. She won't walk on hardwood floor, so she won't come in this room.
okay. So I think there are many people who are jealous of your animal companion doing that, because I mean, the keyboards and the fluffy tail moving along and the barking has just been, it's a lot. It's a lot.
What did you do before this pandemic and all this?
Yeah. So I've been a corporate trainer. I work with a lot of companies, helping them with presentation skills and collaboration. And then when the pandemic started and I found myself outside in my carport in the dark with a headlamp stuck to my head, scrubbing down a pineapple, because you remember that was how we thought we were going to protect ourselves from
Right.
COVID. I thought, I want to do a show about this. And initially, I did it as a benefit for COVID relief funds and other organizations. And I raised $30,000.
Congratulations.
Doing that. It feels so good to have been able to do that. And then I realized, oh, wait, there are all these people working from home at businesses. And it's so hard for managers to get visibility into what's happening with their workers. How much can you see, with a cat scampering across the keyboard or a plant wilting in the corner? I mean, how do you really know how your direct reports are doing? And, it's challenging for nonprofit organizations. How do you thank your volunteers? Yeah. How do you have company-wide celebrations? How do you connect with your clients remotely when you used to be able to do in-person customer events, right? I was just talking to someone. He's a CEO. He hasn't done a client event since 2019, right? And I thought, oh, this is a way to bring people together remotely, wherever they are. They get a chance to laugh at what's going on, connect, laugh at me, laugh at themselves in the process. So that's how this evolved. Yeah.
Great. So I've been doing Zoom calls for years. I mean, this has been my business for a long time. But now everybody's been on so many calls. The Zoom fatigue started setting in. And then humor is the best way to overcome that.
Exactly. And using Zoom, the platform that people have such an aversion to. How do we enliven it? How do we get people to get on a Zoom call and actually look forward to it and have a good time when they've already been in back-to-back meetings, right? I hear time and again, okay, yeah, I had this on my calendar to do this virtual happy hour that, I thought, oh, another meeting, but then they get on the meeting and it's so different. Yeah. It's such a different experience when the purpose is let's have fun, let's relax, and let's also have somebody else handle the fun, because you can only come up with so many icebreakers, right?
Yeah.
And so people they've got icebreaker fatigue too, right? So it's like, okay, let's come in. And there's so many great options these days. There are wine tastings, there are magic shows, they translate so well to Zoom. There are trivia games and, the comedy shows that I do. And I think there is so much potential that is untapped. And I think that even before the pandemic, and we chatted a little bit about this before, Ted, we talked about how there's a scarcity of fun at work. At some workplaces, I'd go sterile break rooms. It's like, wow, how do the employees know that they matter, that the employer really cares about them?
Right.
And now with the pandemic, it's gotten much more challenging. I want to show you something. So I did a training the other day. I don't know if you can see this, but I had to badge in, and this is my badge. Okay, so do you see, this is like the Scream, that Dutch painting.
Right.
Okay, because what happened was I, after signing all the NDAs and everything, then I had to kneel forward and get my eyes lined up into this machine that also took my temperature simultaneously. And I don't know if you know, it is 7:18 in the morning. And do you see where it says well-being check? What about this says well-being? And people are dealing with this all the time. So that's funny and also kind of horrible. And how do we have joy and collaboration in the middle of all that? I think we have to share our stories about it and commiserate and be like, okay, because it's not going to happen unless we plan it. That's the thing about the remote. Look, when we were all in person, there's spontaneous things, even in the sterile break room, right? Someone leaves a, container of brownies out for people to share. But when what we're doing is getting together online, it's like, okay, Zoom meeting in, okay, next one. Right. Unless you actually structure the fun in, it's not happening. And so then what happens, so people scurry off of Zoom and they deal with all this stuff because now, our work lives and home lives are so tangled up. I mean, you're looking at, the laundry hamper, we all, everything's that's going on. And it just, the connection, what gets sacrificed then is our connection with our colleagues we actually need to collaborate with. Yeah. I mean, some people, many people, they've been onboarded at they've never met any of their colleagues in person. Yeah. I mean, how do you begin to navigate? I spoke to one man, his team, 90% of his team was new in the last year. The challenge of getting those people to be a cohesive, functioning unit. I mean, what do? I think structuring fun is absolutely essential, Yeah.
My son-in-law works at Google, and he's had many jobs where he's interviewed remotely, never met the person face to face, had jobs, and now with Google, he has literally Zoom meetings, 10-hour, the Google Meets, not Zoom meetings.
Certainly, of course.
He's literally on calls all day. And I joke, he said, we have a 15-minute stand-up meeting to start the day. I said, do you actually stand up in the bedroom?
Does he?
No, they just do 15-minute check-in call.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think it might be great if they built some stretching into that. Yeah, I was working with a woman the other day, and this was interesting. So she has a standing desk, and she's actually she actually does try to stretch. She does try to stretch at work. But as I was talking to her, she talked about how no one has their webcam on, and it's all about the slides.
Yeah.
And how is creative problem solving happening when that's all that people are doing. I don't understand. I think it's being sacrificed. I don't think that things are as creative as they can be when the only way that people are connecting is in a little box and it's all about work.
Yeah.
You know? So and so then it's like, okay, so what do you want to do? I mean, there's so many flavors. Sometimes there's the competition element, like the escape room. Like, I think that adapts really well to a Zoom format. But I wonder, and I think it's great for some organizations to do that, but I think so many people are under pressure to solve problems in their regular work, and then they're doing it with an escape room. So, it's like, so how do we actually just have a chance to relax and be human together?
Yeah.
No,
my son-in-law just had a virtual wine and cheese party. They mailed him 2 bottles of wine and some cheese.
Did he
They
drink it
got
all at once?
together at 5 o'clock on a Friday, and they had samplings. They had somebody giving, the tasting notes of that and the cheese.
Totally. And so so that's the whole other flavor, the learning. Like, so we got to learn about wine and cheese. Of course, if you don't drink alcohol and you're dairy intolerant, lactose intolerant, I'm not quite sure what you got to do there. A little tricky. Yeah. But people have been very, very creative. I've heard about people doing ice sculpture virtually. Wow. Adaptable.
That's interesting. So what other kind of things are you doing for people now? Companies are starting to come back to work, kind of, and
they
are
are
you kind of doing some welcome to the office kind of things?
Exactly. I would, yes, to do welcome back, but while remembering what we've all been going through, and we're in this hybrid situation now, and what is that about? And people have said, because I do an in-person version of the show also, people said, oh, thank you so much, because we've been through something. It's not like, hey, everything's back to normal. And no, because part of what I talk about in the show is the challenges that we went through, those of us with kids, with the distance learning and trying everybody to get logged in. And this woman said, oh, thank you so much. That is exactly what it was like last year while I was juggling conference calls. And, my husband does bookkeeping and grant reporting. And getting the kids logged into the Zoom calls was more challenging than the financial reporting requirements for a federal agency. So, hey, welcome back to the office. What did we just experience?
My niece is a school teacher in LA, and last year when they were coming back towards the end of the school year, they started coming back. So she had to go into the classroom, and for a while she was just teaching the kids remotely. She had to go to the classroom to do that. She couldn't do it from home. Then they started bringing students in, but they weren't in her class. They were on other Zoom calls with other teachers somewhere else, and they weren't allowed to ask her questions. It was like too much. She goes, this is the craziest thing in the world. I got 30 kids in the room. None of them are my classmates, and they can't ask me questions. And then the second day, she got locked out of the room and had to teach from the hallway.
She could relate to my husband's.
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
I was going to say, you cannot make this stuff up. I had somebody join a virtual happy hour, and he was walking around the lagoon. And I said, wow, you are really committed to getting your steps in. And he said, well, my adult children have moved back in with me. This is my only time to get away from that.
We had that for a few months.
Okay, you were Pelotoning. Getting
The
those
house is
endorphins.
full. Like, wait a minute. The empty nest is no longer empty.
Right. Everyone flew back in. And there are wonderful things about that too. And so it's like, how do we celebrate? How do we celebrate how magnificent people rising to the occasion? Where are opportunities to do that? I want to show you something. I'm going to be doing a volunteer appreciation party for the Palo Alto Humane Society. And they're sending everybody these adorable water bowls that say, have a drink on us. And I'm going to weave in like the animal companions. Because talk about heroes, the rescue organizations through this time, so many people
Yeah.
rescued animals. That was something really great that came out of all of this.
Now they're giving them back.
Okay, well, that's where the volunteers need lots of
Another problem.
right. That's another issue. Right. So we contain multitudes. There are joys and challenges. And how do we contend with all of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is the whole new war. It's not going to go back to normal, like you said. We don't know what's going to be like a year or two down the road.
Right. Right. Exactly. But what we do know is that remote is here to stay. Zoom and Teams and WebEx and everything. This is here to stay. So how do we make the most of it? I think that's a question a lot, whether it's hybrid, like you said, even in in-person situations, there are strange things happening where people are all logging in, they're not. So what's a solution? How do we continue to have a sense of camaraderie and team building and connection?
Yeah.
Yeah. And workplaces really need, it's more important now than ever. It's more important now than ever. Also, because, we hear about the attrition rates and the churn. How do you let people know that they matter?
The great resignation going on right now.
Exactly. So what can you do about it? You can help people feel special. So yeah, that's the other thing, the holidays are coming up.
Yeah.
We don't want holiday parties that are awkward. We don't want them, a risk of cancellation. Everybody has different comfort levels about hanging out with each other. Okay, so how do we end the year on a high note? So I'm doing a lot of holiday parties also, where we get to acknowledge, the victories and celebrate what's happening and look forward to the next year, to the future, because things are getting better. So how do we take that time to really mark that occasion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to be busy for a few years bringing people back to the workforce. We're bringing them back to the office, whatever that's going to look like.
Yeah, that makes me so happy, because nothing makes me happier than creating authentic connection for people, regardless of where they are, whether they're in person or online. I really want to foster community. That's really, really important to me.
And humor is a good way to break the ice and get people. That's how I treat people on LinkedIn. I engage with people and have fun.
Right.
And they're like so shocked. Oh, he's not trying to sell me something.
Right. I mean, Ted, I learned so much from reading your work and following your example. It was such a relief to me to realize, okay, yeah, you don't need to spam people to connect with them and get new clients. And because I'm all about authenticity. Humor is all about vulnerability and authenticity. You're all about that too. And so I just felt this immediate connection with how you are in the world and how I want to be in the places that I want to serve and work with. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you are at the virtualhappyhour.org.
Yeah.
And how else can people get in touch with you? Your Facebook, LinkedIn, obviously.
LinkedIn, please connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be great. I am on Facebook, but LinkedIn is absolutely the best. I'd love to have a conversation with you about how you can bring more purposeful, meaningful fun to your next Zoom meeting. And if I'm not the right person, I can hook you up with somebody who is. So let's make your next Zoom meeting, whether it is an all hands, an off-site, end of the year, volunteer appreciation, whatever it is, let's make it memorable for all the right reasons and really surprise people. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of really good entertainers too.
So many. Oh my goodness. And I love the creative thinking. Just nothing made me happier than this bowl, right? Think about how special those volunteers are going to feel, right? Let's make everybody feel special. Really special, that they really understand what their contribution is, that they're valued. Wow.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, Ted, thank you for everything you do in the world.
So the virtualhappyhour.org, definitely connect with her.